Prince, Chapter 16. The seventh planet, then, was the Earth. The Earth is just not another planet. It contains 111 kings, including, of course, the African kings, 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, 7.5 million drunkards, 311 million vain men. In other words, 2 billion grown-ups. To give you a notion on the Earth's dimensions, I can tell you that before the invention of electricity, it was necessary to maintain over a whole of 6 continents a veritable army of 462,511 lamplighters. Seen from some distance, this made a splendid effect. The movements of the army were considered like those of a ballet. First came the lamplighters of New Zealand and Australia. Then these, having lit their street lamps, went home to sleep. Next, it would be the turn of the lamplighters of China and Siberia to perform their steps in the lamplighters' ballet, and they would too vanish into the wings. Then came the turn of the lamplighters of Russia and India, then those of Africa and Europe, then those of South America and North America, and they never missed their cues for their appearances on stage. It was awe-inspiring. Only the lamplighter of a single street lamp in the North Pole and his colleague of the single street lamp at the North Pole led carefree, idle lives. They worked twice a year. The Little Prince, Chapter 17. Trying to be witty leads to lying, more or less. What I just told you about lamplighters isn't completely true, and I risk giving a false idea of our planet to people who don't know about it. Men occupy very little space on Earth. If the 2 billion inhabitants of the globe were to stand next to each other, as if they were to gather for some big public event, they would easily fit into a city block that was 20 miles long and 20 miles wide. You could crowd all humanity into the small Pacific islet. Grown-ups, of course, won't believe you. They're convinced that they take up much more room. They consider themselves as important as baobabs. So you should advise them to make their own calculations. They love numbers, and they'll enjoy it. But don't waste your time on the extra task. It's not worth it, trust me. So once he reached Earth, the little prince was quite surprised not to see anyone. He was beginning to fear that he had come to the wrong planet, when the moon-colored loop uncoiled out of the sand. "Good evening," the little prince said, just in case. "Good evening," said the snake. "What planet have I landed on?" asked the little prince. "On the planet Earth, in Africa," the snake replied. "Ah, and there are no people on Earth." "It's the desert here. There are no people in the desert. Earth is big," said the snake. The little prince sat down on a rock and looked up into the sky. "I wonder," he said, "if the stars are lit up so that each of us can find his own. Someday, look at my planet. It's over there, just ahead, but so far away." "It's lovely," the snake said. "What have you come to Earth for?" "I'm having difficulties with a flower," the little prince said. "Ah," said the snake, and they were both silent. "Where are the people?" the little prince finally resumed the conversation. "It's a little lonely in the desert." "It's also lonely with people," said the snake. The little prince looked at the snake for a long time. "You're a funny creature," he said at last. "No thicker than a finger." "But I'm more powerful than a king's finger," the snake said. The little prince smiled. "You're not very powerful. You don't even have feet. You couldn't have traveled very far." "I can take you further than a ship," the snake said. He coiled around the little prince's ankle like a golden bracelet. "Anyone I touch, I send back to the land that they came from." The snake went on. "But you're too innocent, and you come from a star." The little prince made no reply. I feel sorry for you, being so weak on this granite earth, said the snake. I can help you someday. If you grow too homesick of your planet, I can. Oh, I understand what you mean, the little prince said. Oh, I understand what you mean, the little prince said. But why do you always have to speak in riddles? I solve them all, said the snake, and they were both silent.